Welcome to Second Wind with Joyce Buford, a program for and about women. Joyce Buford is a certified coach and motivational speaker who has a passion for helping women who need a second wind. She is the author of the Amazon bestseller, Effortless Happiness, How to Find Your Voice and Finally Ask for What You Really Want. She studied directly with her mentor, Jack Canfield, and is a fully certified coach in his program. Also, she has served as an assistant in his training programs. Through her study with many prestigious coaches and mentors, she has created a powerful program that has positively impacted thousands of people. On today's program, Joyce and her guests will help you to get your second wind. Now here's your host, Joyce Buford.
Welcome. I am thrilled that you are with us this morning because it's going to be an awesome show. I like to revisit with you just briefly why I created Second Wind. Second Wind was to help those women going through transition and to better position themselves, to understand they're not the only ones that go through transition and it's part of life. And so many of my guests are coaches, they're women that have experienced what it is to go through transition. Now, my transition, to remind you, was my divorce in my late 40s. And so the divorce was, as you know, if you've experienced divorce, very painful. It was something I never thought I would experience, and yet it was there. And I just almost didn't believe that it was happening. And so the painful transition that I made, I really didn't have any place to reach out. I didn't, other than a few friends that maybe had gone through divorce, there was no place else to look. And so I felt there was a need for a program like this. And so that's how Second Wind was developed. Now, that transition of divorce happens to many women, and it comes in many different sizes, shapes, and happenings. So what I like to do in Second Wind is expose you to all of these. Now, one of the great things that has come out of transitioning relationships is new coaches that can really help us put our lives back together. And so, or how we can transition into a healthier relationship with ourselves. And so that is the guest that I'm going to be talking with today. And let me tell you a little bit about Jennifer. Now, Jennifer Butler holds a master's in clinical social work from New York University as of 2002, a yoga instructor through YogaWorks in 2010, a certified life coach through Bennett Stellar University in 2011, health coach through Institute of Integrative Nutrition in 2017. She is a Calling in the One coach, which is a relationship coach, as of 2019, and was personally coached by its creator, Catherine Woodard Thomas. Now, as you could tell, she is and has received extensive education in the areas of mind, body, and spirit. And Jennifer brings a unique and holistic approach to her work. She supports her clients at a level throughout that's she supports you with every level of a transition, which makes her process very successful. Jennifer is also the founder of a podcast that was called Divorce and Other Things You Can Handle, which is still on the air, and it has one season. But now she is presently involved in her podcast called Deep Chat, which I'm sure she'll share more about that. So, Jennifer, I loved hearing all the progression that you took to get to this place where you are today. I mean, you are qualified, my dear. And so thank you for being on my show. I love that we become students of everything. I love it. I found that in my own company. Yeah. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's interesting to hear it back because you're right. Like, I have really embraced what at the moment, like my transition with a divorce, I really have found a way to embrace what was, I thought, one of the hardest moments of my life and was one of the hardest moments of my life, and really find the opportunity and the possibility in that, and now really be able to teach that to other people so they can do the same.
Right. Something I discovered quite later after that whole painful experience was that really the messages that are found in the transition of divorce, messages to us of our stuff and what we need to learn. It was so eye-opening when I put that together, and I went, oh, that's right. I've learned so much through that very painful transition. Do you feel the same way?
Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's ever a mistake that we go through the things that we go through in order to learn the lessons that you need to learn as unique individuals in our lives, so that, so that we can become whatever we're created to be. I think there is a very beautiful purpose to all of it. And when you're in that mindset and you're looking for the purpose or that possibility, then it's like, wow, you start looking and you're like, oh my gosh, I needed this wake up call. I needed to feel this alone so that I could learn how to connect or whatever that story is for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I always like to share, and I hope you will do this, the moment that, we have that awakening that says, wait a minute, girl, you got to get back up. Or wait a minute, girl, this has got more to it than what you are experiencing. And so will you share with us that transitional, I call it the defining moment that we all have that kind of jerks us and brings us to our present?
Yeah. I actually feel like I had a couple.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
I'm very stubborn, so it took a couple of hits over the head for me. But, I would say there are two that really stand out for me. And one was while I was still married, and I just remember, like, looking in the mirror and being shocked because I didn't see a reflection of myself. I didn't know who that person was. I didn't like myself. I felt like I had literally become this shell of a human being. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying. It was heartbreaking. It was a moment that is almost hard to put words to. And I knew in that moment that I had a choice to make. And that choice was either to stay where I was and keep doing what I was doing and keep living the life I was living and basically sell my soul, basically just completely detach from my soul, or take the scariest step of my life and change and get out of where I was and get into something that aligned with whatever I was going to be. I didn't even know at that time. But I knew that I had to do that in order to save my soul. Yes. And so I did.
Yeah. Now, how long was that moment before you actually took the step to start the divorce or whatever? Was it instantly or did you linger?
It was pretty quick. I mean, I wasn't happy for a while. I knew we were trying, we were struggling, we were doing whatever we could. I hadn't been happy for a while, but from that moment when I was like, oh my God, what am I doing, to, actually making a change and separating was rather quick.
Yeah.
I want to say like a couple months.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you, did you feel like you had a voice?
One of the many things that I learned through my marriage and through my divorce, and honestly, I'm still learning today, is that I have been silencing myself for so long, including choosing into a marriage where I had no voice.
Right.
And, and when I was in the marriage and even coming out of the divorce, I remember connecting with that and realizing, gosh, like I really have been just so, not only did I not have a voice externally, but I had lost my internal voice. I had lost my voice even within myself. And I remember at first feeling like blame for that, right? Like, blaming it on my ex and blaming it on who he was being. And really what the lesson was for me is I am the source of my voice, nobody else. It is up to me to use that voice and to access it and to have the faith and courage and confidence in myself to use it. So that was like, funny enough, one of like the biggest gifts of my marriage and my divorce is reclaiming my voice.
Yeah. 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 I didn't realize how silent I had gotten, but I really hadn't. I kept my voice outside of the marriage because I was doing something that really inspired me. I was on a passion trip with a children's museum. And so it gave me, thank goodness, an outlet. But inside, I was like a different person. So it was kind of interesting for me because we go different. We all journey differently through this path. So it was kind of interesting for me. But then you mentioned your other one. What was your second one?
So my second one was probably, I would say, a couple years consciously parenting, making sure that my son was protected from any conflict between his dad and I. I was checking off all the boxes. Yes. And what I didn't realize was I was getting further and further into this darkness that I just didn't realize it. And so what I didn't notice was I was isolating. I was turning away from my friends. I was really stuck in this place of victimhood, basically, really, focused on all the things that I had done wrong or all the things that had been done wrong to me, how sad I was. I was just really trying to go it alone and in a sense, like just prove to the world and prove to everyone that I was okay and I was going to be able to do this and I've got this. I didn't. And I came on a vacation. I think it was, like I said, a couple of years after and with friends. And I don't know what happened, but it finally hit me. And I spent the 2 days in a hotel room by myself, just crying, like nonstop, to the point where I was afraid I would never be able to stop crying again. I thought that was it. And I just woke up in that moment and realized that, on the surface, I had been doing everything, checking off the boxes, but inside, I wasn't facing my truth. I wasn't standing in any sort of responsibility. And as a result, I felt like a complete victim because if you don't stand in responsibility, then you have no control over anything you're doing now or any future. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I have been keeping myself in so much pain and staying silent and really like outsourcing my healing instead of owning it and really like accessing my own power to heal, to speak, to make change. It was such a defining moment for me. Huge moment.
So you would classify yourself as the model woman for divorce? Is that how you saw yourself up till then? Because you were trying to do it right?
Yeah, I was trying to do it right.
Yeah. One thing for me, and I'm going to kind of think that's tickling a little bit with grief. We don't realize that we have to grieve for the marriage that died. It is a death, and I delayed mine almost 8 years. So I think it's quite common that we, particularly if we are the ones that pursue the divorce, we almost feel like because we pursued it, and I'm speaking for myself, not for you, but I almost felt like because I had pursued it, then I was okay with it, and I didn't allow myself to grieve. And so when the grief came, I was so surprised because I had moved on. I moved to another city. I was doing all this, having a great time. But you're right. There was a sadness about it. Even when we sat quietly by ourselves, when I sat quietly by myself. And so that was my lesson, was I just didn't grieve. And so, of course, it's a big part of my teaching. You got to grieve, you got to grieve, you got to grieve. And people go, enough about grief. My husband didn't die. And so many people have that grieving thing attached to death of a person, not the death of a marriage. Have you found that in working with clients?
Absolutely. You are so spot on. And grieving the divorce or breakup, whatever it is, it's essential. And I think that when we don't grieve, we don't allow ourselves to go through that process, untended to grief, I think actually becomes a block for future love, for like really being able to open your heart and allow yourself to love and be loved. So that process of grief, I think, almost like we need to, and I love that that's such a platform for you, because I think we need to give each other permission to grieve any loss. When we, even if it's a friendship, right? Like even if you lose a friend, there's grief. And it's also, it's a painful process, but it's also another time and another like area in life, grief, where so much light comes in and so much awakening. When it's done consciously, I just think there's, again, so much possibility in it.
Right. Well, you have sort of your coaching, you moved to the coaching of rebuilding the life, and that's with another relationship. And I love that because, as I shared with you, for me, that has been the hardest part. Somebody says, well, don't you want a relationship? And I go, no, don't want, fine. And I have a whole list of reasons.
Right.
So I'd like for you to talk to that, why you wanted to move into helping one rebuild their life through creating a partnership.
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I'm like you. I spent, I've been divorced, separated, divorced, whichever, but like 10 years now. And like you, I spent many, many years just letting it close my heart. My heart was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I had a friend once tell me, like, you could actually see the metal gate around the metal wall that I had put around my heart. That, she just reflected it back to me that, it was very obvious that I was really, really closed around myself. And so I found my way through that. And I think it was such an impact on my life, the difference between living in a space where my heart was so guarded and closed and defended versus when I had finally found my way to opening my heart and being just available to receive and to give and vulnerable and all of that. It was night and day for me, both internally, with my relationship with myself, with my relationships with other people, and then just my relationship with life in general. So I got so passionate about it. I was like, I just want to help women who, have gone through pain that really results in them feeling like they need to close off and get smaller, to find their way to actually allowing it to be the reason they get bigger, they expand, they open, they call in whatever it is they desire.
So how do you do that? I mean, what was the moment? I mean, other than your friend, was there a aha moment of this, yes, I do want this part of my life to open and recreate the love relationship? Was there
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if there was a moment per se. Definitely that moment with my friend, but then definitely finding, Catherine Woodward Thomas's Calling in the One program.
Yes.
I kind of found it and I was like, oh, calling in the one, like, do I really want to do this? And I was like, I felt this pull and I did it. And that's why I became a certified coach in it, because the work was so powerful. It was exactly what I needed so that I could specifically see within myself why I was closing my heart, what I was afraid of, what my patterns were, and then how I was going to be able to now open my heart and exist and show up in the world in that way, which was completely different for me. It was a completely new way of being in the world that I had never really done before. Yeah. Maybe when I was a kid, but, not as an adult.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
So when you take on that personal responsibility for yourself, I think a lot of us think, well, I'm adult, so I feed myself, I'm doing all this other, but sometimes we don't take responsibilities. We kind of push it off on our partner to use them as the feeding our love spirit, feeding our ego spirit, feeding everything about us. And really, we're kind of trained from early childhood to work life that way. But how do you switch that, Jennifer? How do you start in the self-love?
Yeah, so, I always say I wish this was like this magical solvent or, this like one thing I could say, go do this, and then it's all going to make sense, right? But it's a commitment, and I think that commitment to living in a space of really deeply knowing that you are the creator of your experience, that you are the source of whatever relationships you're creating in your life, whatever you're seeing in the mirror, you are the source of that. And I think that's what Catherine's work is really kind of the foundation is. And from there you can build, right? From there you can build on anything, because when you start to look around at your life, I know for me, like when I stood at that perspective and said, okay, if I am the source of my relationships, the ones that are in front of me, the ones that I have lost, right? What can I see? Because that's how you're able to take responsibility. Then you can start to see, like I would see in myself, wow, I never used my voice. I never let anyone know that I needed them. I never, asked for help, right? Like you can start to see all the ways that you have been showing up in the world and haven't been serving you. And then from there, you realize it's in nobody else's power but yours. Like, if I notice that I never use my voice, then guess what? I get to learn how to use my voice and create a different experience. Or, if I never ask anyone for help and never let anybody in, I get to start learning the skill of asking for help and receiving. And then that opens up all these new opportunities for much more deeply connected relationships.
Right. Are you talking about more vulnerability in a relationship? And can you be more vulnerable with yourself?
Yeah, well, I think that's where it all starts, right? And so when we start to look at relationships, they really are just a mirror of how we're treating ourselves, right? So then when you go below that, when you start to see, like I could see, I was so disconnected from myself, right? Like I had lost even any sort of voice within me. So if you were to ask me years ago, what do you feel? Like, how are you feeling? Or what do you need? My answer would be like, I don't know. Right? I had no idea because I was so disconnected from myself. And that reflected in my relationships. So absolutely, it's like those relationships are mirrors. And when you can really take the time, whether you're in relationship or not, right? Even if you're in relationship right now, if you can create the space and take the time to really work on you and learn who you are, what do you feel, what do you need, where are you sourcing from a place of pain instead of a place of empowerment. And get curious, right? Get curious about yourself and be willing to grow. I think that's kind of, the magic, right?
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break now, but when we come back, I want to really get into this. What does that look like to take care of yourself? To start feeling. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break. We will be back. And I'm curious, aren't you out there, my dear listeners? How is Jen going to be able to help us through this and get us started? So anyway, we will be back shortly with Jennifer, and she'll tell us more.
Transformational coach, motivational speaker, and author Joyce Buford returns after this short break. Close your eyes and imagine living your life without limits. Where would you go? Who would you meet? What would you do? During an Uncover Your Hidden Genius session, you will discover what's keeping you from living your life with purpose, passion, and fulfillment of your potential. You'll get a clear vision of the steps you need to take to uncover your hidden genius so that you can live a life without limits. Sessions can be done over the phone, Skype, or in person. Find out more at www.joycebufordempowers.com or by calling 903-287-0747. Welcome back to this segment of Second Wind. Joyce Buford, the author of Effortless Happiness, continues in this segment to share insights that will help you live a life of greater purpose and filled with happiness. Now here's our host, author and coach, Joyce Buford.
All right, welcome back. Now we are talking with Jennifer Butler today, and she is a relationship coach. And so she was just getting into how do you start opening up your heart again, reconnect with you so that you can be able to open up to reconnect with another love relationship. So Jennifer, tell us how, if you can, give us a beginning tool that could help us with
absolutely.
self-love.
Yeah, I love what you said, because it is this, when you can develop this deep connection with yourself, then you can start to develop these deep connections with other human beings and, a lover, a husband, a wife, whoever that is. And so, one of the most powerful tools that I was ever taught and that I use with my clients over and over again is this tool of connecting with your own feelings and needs. Catherine created this, and it's called the Inner Sanctuary of Safety in her conscious uncoupling work. But what it is So when we have these feelings, right, we all have all these feelings. Many of us, like I kind of said before, don't really know how to name those feelings. We know we feel bad. We know we feel good, but we don't ever really get specific and precise about what we're feeling. It's a skill to be able to do that. And science kind of shows that when we do that, when we hit on the proper feeling, it actually, and name it, it actually loses its intensity. So what you can do, whether you're feeling kind of triggered in the moment, or if you're just sitting and, just kind of want to do this process, I always say put your hand over your heart and just put your focus on your heart. You can even turn your eyes downward and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Or you can phrase it, what are you feeling? If you can connect that there's different parts of ourselves. We have different parts that exist within ourselves. And whatever comes, trust it. I'm feeling sad, right? And then the important piece is reflect it back. I can see that I'm feeling sad, or I can see that you're feeling sad. What else are you feeling? I'm feeling really overwhelmed. And you just keep going, right? You just get into this conversation with yourself where you're stating how you feel and then reflecting it back. I can see that you're feeling. Until you get to that part where you really feel like you've touched it, and you just sit with it for a moment and just allow it. Don't try to fix it. Just allow it. And then ask yourself the same thing. What do you need? And just whatever comes, mirror it back. I need love. I need support, whatever that is. I can see that you need love. I can see that you need support. And you keep going until you feel complete. Just the act of doing that is so powerful because, first of all, you're learning how to self-soothe. You're learning how to contain yourself. You're learning how to name your feelings. You're getting connected to what you need, and you're mirroring it back. So you're acknowledging yourself. And then if you want to go more deeply, then you look at, the needs that you stated, and you start to look and go, okay, well, I need support. How could I give myself support? What could I do right now that would meet that need? Or if you need affection, right? What could I do right now to give myself affection? And now you're training yourself to be able to meet your own needs so that you're not sourcing other people and coming at them needy and asking them to help fix you. It's so powerful, and it's such a beautiful place to start. I think it's like a superpower once you really kind of start to connect into it.
Right. Well, I see this as like, how am I feeling? I could see that in my visual was you kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I can almost see that it is, for me, I think it would be necessary to have the coach there that says, okay, deeper, to keep you going, because I would probably stop. Like, I'm a mad, sad, or angry lady here, not really feeling all the different levels and expressing them, like you were even expressing it, which I thought was interesting. Anxious. I mean, we don't think of that as being a feeling normally, but I found that interesting.
Yeah, and you're not alone. And when and look, this is one of the reasons why coaching's so powerful, right? Because we have somebody who can help us learn new skills. And that's all this is. It's just a skill. And you're not the only one who, when they first learn this, is kind of, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm fine. Fine. Fine is the common one, right? We're all fine.
I'm fine.
But what's so amazing is once you learn this practice, and yes, if you can be guided through it and really kind of brought into it with some guidance, obviously that's very effective and helpful. But this is, all of my clients are like, this is their go-to. They learn how to do it first on, I tell people set alarms. Set an alarm in your phone that says, check my feelings and needs. print out a list on Google. Go to Google and print out the feelings and needs chart. I'm trying to remember the website, but you can print out a list of feelings, and you'll see there's like, I couldn't believe it because I was a fine person too. There's like 50 feelings.
No way.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
And I did this years ago because I wanted to help my son be able to articulate how he was feeling. And I was like, I wonder if there's a list of feelings. And there are. So go to Google, print it out, put it on your wall. Same thing with needs. What are things that you might need? And then, just sit with the list in front of you and start to feel into it. Well, I don't feel good today. Oh, I see. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Oh, I'm feeling frustrated. You'll know. Your body will tell you when you hit the right one. You'll feel it.
Oh, really?
If you're tuned in, yeah, you'll feel it. You'll go, it's like almost like a release. Like, oh, that's it. I wasn't frustrated. I was enraged or whatever, right? Because they're very distinct. They're very distinct.
I like the word triggered. That's not one that I normally think of, but there are things that can trigger us.
Yeah.
They throw us into agitation, or I can't even explain it, but there are some people that just walk in front of me and they can trigger me. That's probably undealt with anger or something, right?
All of us. I mean, we all get triggered. And the way I understand it is we get triggered into our old stories. I think we all kind of walk around with our own perspective on life, our own story about our lives, about other people, about life in general. And we live from that story and create patterns around that story. And when we get triggered, we're kind of in that pattern, we're living in that story. And I think that's sort of the power in this work, is being woken up out of those stories and then recreating those patterns so that you're creating ways of showing up in the world that align with what brings you joy and happiness and fulfillment.
And so when we notice something like being triggered, of course, I want to say be kind to ourselves instead of going shameful remarks, horrible remarks to ourselves, but more about allowing ourselves to, where would we go from once we're triggered, Jennifer? Do we go into... Go ahead.
I love what you said, though, first and foremost, because we're so hard on ourselves. We really are. And most importantly, give yourself grace, right? Just be kind and just notice. And then I always say, go into curiosity. What was that? What's going on? What did that bring up? Or, my favorite question is like, something that helps you to sort of see, okay, how did I play a part in that? Where did I give away my power? Is there somewhere that I ignored something? And now, you start to play with these questions as opposed to, what's wrong with me? Why do I always do this? Or why does this type of person always bother me? Right? Because those are just shaming. We're shaming ourselves. And no good can come of that.
I know. I was laughing earlier because I thought I would go to who gave me that. Who taught me that?
Right. Like, where can we?
Let's put it on mom and dad. They've got broad shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
We tend to do that. Yeah. For mom and dad. Oh, yes. And do you use journaling? Does it come in any place in your process?
Yeah, I do. It's definitely a powerful tool, not for everybody, right? Because everybody is not a journaler. And this is why I love that there's so many tools, because certain tools resonate with certain people. And guiding people to really trust their instincts on what is working for them, I think is another skill so that people can really connect to their intuition. But journaling is powerful. And I actually, I have a freebie on my website that is called the Roadmap to Love. And it's a journaling process, a 10-step journaling process that people can go through to really open their hearts and connect with what it is that they truly desire and what they might need to shift in order to open their hearts to it. So,
that's great.
I love journaling. Yeah.
So how do we, can we go and take advantage of that offer?
Yeah. Yeah. It's on my website. So it's, www.joycoaching.com. And it's right there on the homepage. And there's a journal, e-journal download. There's also the checklist. So it has just the 10 steps and a brief little definition in case somebody just wants the quick, easy, carry it with them type thing. And then people can also schedule a free session with me as well if they just want to go through the journal or just be coached in whatever's going on in their lives.
Yeah, wonderful. What a great offer. So go there, my friends, my listening friends out there, and take advantage of this valuable tool that you can use, whatever your process is, either journaling or at least the step checklist would be really, really important. But how does one move once we have, I don't want to say healed, but we've gone through the process of becoming more aware of who we are and how we can love ourselves. How does one transfer that to a relationship?
I think that I don't think we ever get to a place, right? It's like, I think it's when you become committed to the idea that we're here to grow, and then you're willing to stand in that place from that perspective, live from that perspective, and really be focused on, well, how can I continue to grow? How can I continue to expand? How can I see everything in the world, every person, every experience as an opportunity for me to continue my process, and then decide to be alongside somebody who's in that perspective as well and really committed to their own process.
Right.
I believe that that's the way that you're able to come together and create relationship that feels it's healthy, but it feels happy and it feels fulfilling and it feels good, right? Like relationship isn't always perfect and of course there's conflict and things like that, but relationship is supposed to feel good. We're human beings. It's supposed to feel good to be near people you love.
So probably I'm just thinking about this, that certainly you change the energy around yourself when you love yourself more. And so that would change the energy around interacting with other people, right? Is that right?
But you don't just change the energy. Absolutely, the energy changes. But more importantly, or same importantly, I'm not sure, but change the way you show up.
Right.
You're interacting in the world and relating to the world in a completely different way. Right? So if you weren't using your voice, now you're using your voice. If you were somebody who didn't know how to respect boundaries and so you were pushing people away, well, now you've learned how to respect boundaries and encourage people or inspire people to come closer to you, right? So it's like the energy changes, but so does the way you exist here in the world in relationship to others.
Yeah.
Which then pulls in different people, right? So, if you're existing in this really happy, healthy, nourished, love-filled way where you're really empowering yourself and existing in the world like that, then you're pulling in and connecting with others that are existing in the world that way as well.
Right. Yeah. Do you use only intention or any envisioning? Do you do any of that work with your pulling in the relationships and attracting those relationships that would fit you? Or am I saying this right?
Yes, totally. It's a cornerstone, right? Because the intention is so important, right? It's like, what are you living into? What is the future that you are so committed to that you will use that intention as your North Star to make your decisions today? So that when I'm making my choices, am I choosing something that's going to bring me closer to my intention? And if that intention is to be partnered, right? And when I have a choice point, which we have them all day, every day, well, how I'm going to choose is I am going to choose the choices that align with my intention, because I'm standing strongly for what I desire in the future. And so that intention is the guiding light. It's the North Star. And then the visioning, I think, is so important because, well, science has shown us, right, that we really can't tell the difference between what's happening in our imagination and what's happening in life. But it's so powerful because when you're visioning, you're having a sensory experience about not only what you desire for your future, but who you are being in that. How are you feeling? How are you speaking? Who are you being? What is that sensory experience like? That's what makes the visioning experience so powerful.
Right. I know of some people that advocate writing their letter describing their perfect mate. Is that a process that you use in your coaching? Creating that?
I've seen that. For me, the most important thing, again, everyone's different, and some people love that tool, and sometimes I will say, or like write a letter to God, whatever God is to you. But the one that I think across the board that is so essential for anyone who really desires to call in happy, healthy partnering is writing down your core values. Because sometimes when we write that letter, we can get caught up in silly things, right? Like you're tall and you have brown eyes and yes, sometimes people can get that detailed. I'm not sure that matters as much though. But when you can write down those 4 or 5 non-negotiables, those things that are the definition of your essence, of who you are, and know those, right? Like for me, like it's passion, it's purpose, it's somebody who's growth oriented. There's things that have to exist for me to be in the fullest version of myself. Really connecting with those and writing those down, that's such a beautiful starting point, because if I meet, for example, if I use myself, if I were to meet someone who is not growth oriented and that is like not even on their radar, I automatically know we can't connect, right?
Yes.
We wouldn't be of service to one another.
Right.
So that's the one I kind of like really help, try to provide to my clients and help them to really kind of dig in within themselves to really understand. And
well, tell us how my audience can touch base with you again through going to your website.
Yeah. So my website is Jenn, Jenn, joycoaching.com. I'm also on Instagram at Jen Joy Coaching. And I am also really excited to be in the next few weeks. I don't have a date yet, but I am creating a membership group for anyone who's going through any sort of divorce or breakup, past or present, just a community where there will be coaching and mentorship and support around conscious heartbreak. And
Yes.
I'm super excited because it's going to be a place where you said, like, where women can grieve in a space where they're safe, but somebody, not just somebody, but an entire group of women are holding the light for what's possible in the future. It's just a completely different way of holding space for one another. So,
yeah. Well,
so yeah,
that sounds great. Now, I'm wondering, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but have you been able to do this in your life?
My life is
that relationship.
Oh, am I with somebody? I am not partnered. I'm not. I actually, but for me, it's been more about my relationship with myself and the way that my relationships throughout my entire life have changed. Because the process in and of itself is like, gosh, my life is night and day. And if you ask my friends, you know, like, they're like, wow, like you are just a completely different person. Not different, but they say they're the person that they saw that I was, like way, way, way down deep. And here I am, you know? And so, yeah, but I'm not partnered yet. So we'll see when mine is called in.
Well, you're on your way for sure. Because if you're you've done the self-love and the self-worth, it's got to be in the future for you. Now, what is when they comment about the most change, or maybe you could share, what do you think has been the biggest change in you when it comes to, have we already said it?
Well, I mean, I think it's sort of the corner, like really what we've been talking about. My heart is so open. My heart is so open. I'm so emotionally available. I'm honest. I'm vulnerable. I embrace conflict. I used to be the type of person that if I felt like somebody was going to leave me or was going to be mad at me, I would strike first. I would leave first or get mad first, right? Yeah. Because I didn't want to be hurt. So, you know, now I just, gosh, if I'm afraid somebody's mad, or if I feel like I've done something, I embrace it. You know, I engage it. And I bet
your forgiveness you're able to handle forgiveness better. Yes.
I'm able to forgive, myself and others, and respect when other people can't forgive me, and still love them anyway. Yeah.
That's big. Yeah. That's really big, Jen. Yeah. That forgiveness thing is a bugaboo.
Oh my gosh. That's like a whole nother episode.
You are so right. I know.
That's a whole other.
I know. Well, I love that you are kicking off your mastermind. Are you calling it mastermind?
It's going to be I'm going to be a tribe, but it's a membership group coaching program.
Yeah, I love that you're doing them, because I think that's going to be a great resource for so many people. And the actual way to get to the membership site will be by going to your website.
Yeah, so if anyone is interested and just wants to kind of be kept up to date as that unfolds, they can just join my mailing list, and then all the instructions for when that's launching and how to become a part of it will, be emailed out through my mailing list. The best part about it is it's going to be accessible to everybody. For so long, I've had this mission to make coaching accessible not only to people who can afford one-on-one coaching, but to everyone. And so I've found a way. And so it's going to be less than $100 a month. And it's like, I just want to like shout from the rooftops that, it's available, and it's like, I can't wait to bring it all together.
Yeah. I think it's really a good tool that people can have as a resource to get answers This isn't working for me. What do I need to do? So I think it's a valuable tool that you've got going there. I have so loved, I'm going to immediately go to your website and get the checklist and the e-journal and take advantage of your offer, because I think that would be a great tool to have in my toolkit. But we are coming to the close. I hate to close this, Jennifer, because it was so much fun. You were so open and shared so much good information that I know my listeners are going, wow, I could do this too. And what does self-love look like? Yeah. So thank you very much for being on Second Wind today. I appreciate your knowledge and your growth and that you've come to address this important part of someone's relationship. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a joy.
Good. So, all right, listeners, as we go into next week, I want you to remember what you've learned here. Go to Jennifer's website, seek out the wonderful tools she's offered us. And for your thought this coming week, I certainly do hope that you will put yourself first on that thought so that you can start loving yourself today. You are the most important. I know you don't hear that very often, but you are from where I stand. So I certainly treasure that you were with us today, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.
Joyce Buford returns next week at the same time for another edition of Second Wind. Through the Joyce Buford Empowerment System, women are receiving the support they need through their transitions and are able to reclaim their true purpose with confidence. They receive the tools they need to map out new lives. You can find out more about her coaching services at joycebufordempowers.com.